Hey guys, good evening. I am sorry that we're running a little bit late. So earlier today, I was unboxing a haul from Da Vinci and recording that and kind of demoing some of the things. And I dumped a cup of water on my desk, which is a glass top desk. And that cup of water then proceeded to pour directly into my LED keyboard. And while I detached it from the computer as quickly as I could and I let it dry out for several hours, when Joseph was getting everything set up for me, not only was it not working, but it was causing the computer itself to malfunction. So it seems like everything's working so far, which is great. We could not get the face cam to work, so I'm sorry. And we're trying out my old Meteor mic rather than my lavalier mic, so hopefully everything sounds good to you guys. Please let me know if I'm too loud. I can adjust that. So today we're going to be swatching Da Vinci's watercolor sample set. I ordered this through their website. I think it's all the colors that they make. We're going to be swatching it on Blick Premier cold press watercolor paper. And I need to go grab a cup of clean water. There's also, I thought perhaps today would be a good opportunity to play around with some new watercolor brushes. I've used the Zen before. I actually used this one when I was recording the tutorials for my Paint Your State kits. So I'm familiar with this and relatively impressed. So I ordered a few more and purchased at David's a few more just to see if these would be good and would be something that I would want to recommend to people who are looking for some very affordable watercolor brushes. So I thought this would be a fun one today. I also have a Winsor & Newton professional synthetic quill, as well as these are really interesting. I picked these up at Moe's Art Supply. These are liner brushes. So basically they are really thin brushes that have this ginormous belly on them. So kind of like how I really like caged G-nibs that have a little spring in them so that they hold more ink. This belly should do just that. So I'm really looking forward to, getting to explore these with you guys. And there's also just some things that I wanted to talk about YouTube, about making art, about 2022, just some things in general. And this is why I wish the face cam was working, because some of these are heavier topics that I'd like y'all to be able to see my face, basically, because they're not happy topics, and it'd be nice to be able to make eye contact with you guys, or stare strangely into a Logitech webcam. But I have been out most of the day. I literally just got back, and Joseph had been working on getting the streaming set up for me while I was gone, which thank you, Joseph. He's actually just headed out to go check out a metal show with my brother. So if technical difficulties get too egregious, we're either going to have to end the stream early, or we're just going to have to muddle through them. So I'll fix what I can, but just keep in mind that the person who really helps with chat moderation and tech support is out for the evening. So it's just me hanging out with you guys. So I'm gonna go get a cup of clean water, some paper towels. I'm gonna go wipe my eyes because for some reason they are super dry and killing me. And I'm going to rinse the sizing out of my watercolor brushes. I'm also going to take a moment to actually share the fact that the stream has gone live. So it is so weird to me because usually I have the lavalier mic on. So it's weird to me that we have the Meteor mic instead of my lavalier mic. And I've to kind of spoil what I'm talking about today. It's really nice to be streaming again, but it is also it's like a lot, I guess because I can't draw and talk at the same time. It's really difficult for me. and so I can't like just easily and casually do like a draw stream. And also we always end up having, I'm borrowing Joseph's keyboard because mine is not working right now, and it's different, very different from mine, so I got to get used to it, but that's okay. I'm just appreciative that I can't type and talk either. I bet you guys didn't know that. I'm just appreciative that I have a keyboard to use. I am appreciative that he was able to get as much stuff up and running for me as he could, because when I spilled that water on my keyboard earlier today, I had no idea it was going to cause so many problems. Oh, dare I risk opening Discord? Is Discord going to be the straw that breaks the camel's back? I guess there is only one way to find out. So, hey, how have you guys been? It's been, I think, since mid-December. Cindy says, hey guys, long time no see. Been super busy. So I've been trying to catch up with Miss Becca last couple of videos. Lots of goodies. How's everyone doing? And Tali said, hello everyone, and to Becca. Hey y'all, good evening. I like how my brain not only cannot type and talk at the same time, but it cannot get Discord to work and talk. Just trying to let everybody know that the stream has started. So I appreciate y'all's patience sincerely. It makes it a lot easier to kind of fumble through things. Hey Rachel, good evening. Okay, so cup of rinse water, wash these out, wash out my eyes, and go get drinking water. There we go. think I've got everything. Liz said, hey Becca and everyone. Oh yikes, hope your keyboard is okay. I do too, but I may have fried it. Oh man, thank you guys so much for your patience. So I was washing the sizing out of these brushes and they just were harder than they should have been. I think because it's cold again now, and the water in our pipes is cold. So, you know, cold water and sizing don't really work super well together, but also you don't necessarily want to use like hot water with watercolor brushes because that's a good way to dissolve the glue that holds the bristles in the brush. So I was like scrubbing to get it out. Okay. Oh, okay. So all the things that are normally in my keyboard tray, like my X-Acto blades. Oh, okay. All right. I found where to put them. Good. All right. So I figure we'll get started with the Da Vinci, and then while I'm swatching, we'll just kind of chat about stuff. So this is the sample set from DaVinci.com. I wish more companies offered sample sets. A lot of them make them, but then you can't get a hold of them, or they're only sent out like at certain times of the year. But this would make reviewing watercolors so much cheaper. And honestly, it would make it a lot more accessible for people to just try a watercolor and see if they even like it. So they were offering these before Christmas. And I really like how these are packaged because instead of like a dot card on a sheet, they are individual dots in this almost like egg crate stuff. So, you know, I like that. I think it's a little bit more reusable, a little more transportable than the dots. All paint is not created equal. Carefully crafted in small batches for 3 generations, Da Vinci watercolors have unmatched performance, quality, and value. We handcraft more than 120 colors to exact standards using only the finest ingredients, so artists can experience Da Vinci watercolors' beautiful vibrancy, excellent dispersion, and remarkable rewetting properties. Discover the best at DaVinciPaints.com. So this is the sample set about Da Vinci watercolors. High concentration of premium pigment is finely milled for maximum vibrancy, made with responsibly sourced pure gum arabic. Proprietary 2-in-1 formula with amazing rewetting properties. Use Da Vinci watercolors straight from the tube or fill your own watercolor pans and rewet. Made in the USA with craftsmanship quality. And then they have a full color chart at their website. And the art provided, they credit their artists. Mwah, I love it. It makes my heart sing to see. Cover art courtesy of Da Vinci Paints ambassador artist Tanya Lee. Our colors represent who we are and what we do. We immerse ourselves in making perfect batches of paint every day so you too can have full freedom of artistic expression without compromise. We hope you enjoy using our products as much as we enjoy making them. And I've actually used Da Vinci watercolors. One of my favorite mixing palettes is a Da Vinci watercolor palette. I really like these watercolors. I thought it would be fun to try out I feel guilty tearing that belly band because it is so pretty. But anyway, as you can see, they come in individual cardboard cartons. There's 5 of them. They look like this. And I recently found out, thanks to my comments here on YouTube, that Cheap Joe's watercolors are made by Da Vinci. So this let me finish my thought and then I'll ADHD on off. This format looks a lot like the Cheap Joe's format. It's because it's the same manufacturer. Okay, so time to ADHD off. They have, I will not swatch on this because it is a coated paper, but they have a map of the colors, the pigment information, the opacity, the price series, the light fastness. Mwah! I love it. I'm going to try to do them in order too. Love it. It's so aesthetically like, yes, but in like a useful way, you know. I love it. It makes me happy to see. And something else that is cool about this is that because they come in these cartons, I feel like you're going to get a little bit more use and a little bit more life out of the dot sample you get, which, like how I can't open it when I want to open it. That's not like a teeny tiny dot. That is a decent little dot. You could paint a watercolor illustration, probably. You may have to sub in some color, some like close by colors, but you could probably paint a large-ish, like 10 by 14 watercolor illustration with dots, like a set of the dots this size. So I love this. I love the packaging. I love the thought. I love the labeling. I'm super excited. I'm very curious about this brand. Well, hopefully we can answer some of those questions. So I'm not going to do this the way I normally do the unboxing swatches, because I just wanted to hang out with you guys, chat about some stuff that's been on my mind, talk to you guys and get caught up, and, you know, swatch some watercolors, but I am going to actually swatch them. The true question is, and I may have to do some math, and math is not my strong point, it would be ideal to me if I could do all, I think this is the 120 samples, I could do all of them on one sheet of paper. If you guys know of anybody who sells pre-printed on watercolor paper, like those swatch blocks, I know some people sell stamps like that, and they've been in and out of my cart for a while. I just can't quite commit. But if you know of anybody who sells like the pre-printed sheets and I could just like punch them and put it in a binder, let me know, because I would be very happy to give them my business. And of course we're swatching on cotton rag paper because I want to give these paints the fairest shot possible. Why should I be kinder to the student grade paints than I am to the professional grade paints? Go. Let me make sure I don't dump. You know, I have painted at this desk for many years, for like 5 years now at least. I used to paint on the floor, but I've painted at this desk for a while, and I paint at this desk almost every day, and that was the first time I dumped a significant amount of water onto my keyboard. I don't know if that's like good on me for that not happening sooner, or, you know, my mistake. Okay, so another thing to think about getting these all on here is there are a lot of there's a lot of paints. Okay, come on, Becca, focus. We got this. One thing that would have been helpful is if they had labeled like yellows, reds. I could probably do that. Oh, okay. My brand new, bought in October, Blick block just separated from the chipboard. Come on, Blick. Nobody wants to see that. I'm gonna be a chicken and go grab one of my silver black velvet brushes. I do aim to play around with these on stream for you guys, but like I said, I like giving the paints the best chance they can. So one of the things I do want to test is opacity. And like I said earlier, if my mic's too loud, if the music's too loud, please let me know. Because honestly, from like my end, I'm talking to myself in a quiet room. You know what I mean? Like move that. No, don't fall. Sorry. So from what I've seen online, and this isn't all inclusive, it seems to be pretty diametrically opposed. People either had a great 2022 or their 2022 was really, 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 really rough. And just based on what I've seen online, a lot of the people who have had a really great 2022 are creators who don't really make art content. They do other things. And the people I know who have had like a really hard 2022. Okay, if y'all heard that, I'm so sorry. That's the lavalier mic falling. Are artists. Like 2022 was a really, really rough year for artists. I don't know how many of you guys use Twitter. I'm not here to encourage you to use it or to not use it, but Twitter was my, like, okay, so I had a live journal, I had a Facebook, but Twitter was like the first social media that I really felt like I understood and that I really felt like I was able to make friends on and build a community. And, you know, that's been kind of dying over the years. That kind of died during the pandemic in a big way, but like a lot of people, so I'm starting with Titanium Buff, like a lot of people, I wasn't like ready to leave the corpse of the ship just yet. So this year Elon Musk actually bought Twitter, and I'm not like gonna get super into there. Let me put it this way, there are channels that good. I'm glad you can hear me loud and clear. There are channels that are going to be able to do like a way better job talking about that situation than I can or than I intend to. But it's been like, and hopefully this isn't too tacky a thing to say, it's kind of like being on the band on the Titanic, or in the band on the Titanic as the Titanic is going down. Like, you're still playing music and you're still doing your best, but you see where this is going. Things are not going well. You see people having trouble accessing their accounts. You see, you know it's bad. So in 2022, a lot of artists either made new social media accounts like on Co-Host or Hive, or made a concerted effort to go back to social media sites where they like had an account but maybe didn't use it a whole lot. Or like Tumblr. Tumblr has seen a big old resurgence, which is funny because like I was using Tumblr up until 2021, and the only reason I really quit keeping up with it was frankly Burnout. It was just another social media site where I was posting, but I didn't really feel like I fit well into the community. And I have had a Tumblr since 2013, so like I've been on there a while, you know, but I never really felt like I fit in with the culture of Tumblr. I didn't really feel like the stuff I had to say or share on Tumblr, other than the stuff I shared on how to be a con artist, was doing well. So like, you know, went back to Tumblr. Or people were putting more energy and effort into like Instagram. Oh, these are so nice. I'm sorry, I'm not talking about the paints, but the paints are so nice. They activate so quickly. The colors are so vibrant. I'm going to try to do as many on one. Try to do as many on one line as I can. And that way maybe we can get all 120 on this piece of paper. My goal is also not to like use up all the paint, because it would be really cool to be able to do an illustration with these. And I kind of ordered these so that I could also like sorry. I was laughing at Cindy's comment. I definitely get that vibe. I both love it and I hate it, and I'll touch on that a little bit more, but it'd be really cool to be able to do like an illustration with these, you know? So I don't want to like just use them all up just swatching them, but I do want the swatches. You know, if I was a smart girl, I would do at least a little bit of the swatch up here as well. Let's test it out with cadmium. Oh yeah, I don't blame them for this either, by the way, but this paper does not take watercolor at all. Oh, okay. All right. Sorry, I keep losing track of thoughts because there's like a lot I want to talk about and I don't have a script. And I don't want to just monologue at you guys either. I am going to like look up and check the chat. Basically, I'm kind of just going like a row of paint and then I check the chat. So I'm not ignoring you guys. Yeah, but like the gist of it is social media has been a lot of people who, dang it, I lost my, you left a space. 1, 2, yeah, okay. 3. This is what I get for talking and doing. Social media for artists and creatives and writers and musicians has just been like a lot this year. It's been really, really rough. And I'm sure you guys, Liz definitely said I had to take a step back from all social media too. Like, I know I'm not the only one feeling it, like not by a long shot. And I'm the kind of stubborn idiot that feels like if something's not working, I need to try twice as hard at it. And I think that's partially the ADHD, because like everything's been twice as hard. And I'm not saying this in a woe is me way. I think other ADHD kids can kind of get it. Like everything's always been kind of twice as hard for me. So I don't know when to like actually step away from something and say, okay, like it doesn't matter how hard you work at this, this is not a good situation. So it's social media has been a rough year. Okay, so there was a point in time over the year where, okay, fine, Twitter is probably going to die. We should probably all follow each other on other social media sites. Cool. And so I've got like a little bit of a rhythm going for a while where I'm like updating my art station again, which is good, or was good, because it also meant I was updating my LinkedIn. And I was trying to use Mastodon and trying to use co-host, but I also kind of burnt myself out with trying to use too many different social medias, because like obviously none of them were going to immediately take the place of Twitter, even the place of dying Twitter. And I was expecting them to. So I had like, oh, nuts. I meant to skip a line and I was distracting myself. Good watercolors for a beginner. I would suggest the Mei Liang Pigments palette. You might have seen it as like the Pretty Excellent palette or the Parrot palette. That's a really well-performing, fairly affordable watercolor palette that is gonna, like, as you're learning watercolor, it's going to be able to deliver what you're looking for. And then as you play around with watercolor and you want to try new techniques and you want to branch out more, you can add more like tubes of watercolor to your lineup. Yeah, ADHD squad. So that was a thing that happened in 2022 that I feel like affected a lot of artists. So later this year, AI art isn't actually a new thing. Using AI algorithms to generate text or to cobble together images or to cobble together sounds. That's been a thing for like 10 years. But what kind of spooked a lot of artists about AI art now is that not only is AI art being generated off the backs of artists who aren't giving consent for their work to be used this way, so like how we feel about it doesn't seem to matter, but this is not like the majority of people by a long shot, but there's a lot of people, and many of them seem to work in hiring sectors, and I can go into this a little bit more in a minute, who they don't care if the art is good. They don't care if the art is expressive or meaningful. They want the art as cheap as possible. A lot of my freelance work when I was younger was this kind of work, and I knew what it was, and I actually kind of enjoyed doing it because I love mass market art, and it meant like stuff that I was doing would be on wallpaper at Dollar Tree, and I thought that was kind of cool. But the way they treated their employees, the way I was treated, was really pretty abysmal. So like, I think a lot of artists are legitimately very worried that these bread and butter jobs, that while they don't pay a lot, they do pay, and there's something you can put on your resume, and there's something you can put in your portfolio so that people know you've worked for somebody, because it can be really hard to find paying artwork if you've never worked for somebody. These jobs are just going to be, they're just going to use AI to generate the base image and then maybe pay an artist to correct some of the things that are like the worst, like the hands. So a lot of artists are really nervous about that. And as someone who, and I've mentioned this before, like I used to earn, okay, I think this is next in line. A lot of my convention artist life was me drawing quick fire $10, $15 inked chibi commissions. And while the majority of my customers were really excited about what I did, I mean, I even had some customers cry because they were just so happy to see their D&D character drawn out in a format that they could see, or they really liked the commission I did of their cat who had passed away recently. And that, I love doing that kind of work. But I also had a lot of customers who, they just wanted to get their character onto paper. I was just the cheapest artist in the alley. They had no attachment to my work. They didn't really care. It could have been anybody, and that's fine. But I think a lot of artists are also worried that those jobs, which again, not the greatest, not the most prestigious jobs, but jobs that pay the bills and allow you to put stuff in your portfolio and allow you to build up a name for yourself, they're worried that those jobs are also going to be subsumed by AI, because people just care about the pretty anime desu style face, those kind, in that instance, and they don't necessarily care that the hand has 8 fingers. So, you know, I've already like done a vlog about how I feel about it, so I wasn't going to get into that too much, but I did want to kind of touch on how that made me feel. So Twitter doing the Twitter thing, and then the AI art debacle, and then people like, I feel like I had some of the mildest artist takes, okay? Like, I accept that AI generated art is probably going to be a reality. It's going to be an everyday occurrence. I can see studios using it for generating concept art. I can see publishers using it for book covers. Like, I accept that it's going to exist, but I have some ethical problems with how they're creating their data sets and the lack of compensation for artists. And I have like major reservations about how many of the people I have interacted with online about this topic have talked to me, and how little concern they had for my fear. Like, it never felt like it was a fair dialogue. It felt like, well, you're wrong and you're afraid of computers. So I'm like a little not super excited about that. And sorry, I have to change out my water, but I wanted to finish my thought with this. Let's just say that was like a super major bummer. And I have already been battling with burnout for a really long time. And in a lot of ways, that kind of felt like a straw that broke the camel's back for me. So Mary Catherine said, yeah, another Mei Liang fan. Yes, they're like a good like middle section. And also you can get them on Amazon for around $10. Not $10, I'm so sorry, 20-ish. And that's just like a really good starting point. Tali said, me too, but only with Discord to reevaluate why I create art and stories and to think about AI art. And Cindy said, most social media has become so fandom-based. Creators, specifically artists, are having such a difficult time with original art, and people will not look at artists unless they're doing fan art. It's quite frustrating. Yeah. That's another point that actually segs super nicely into, like, okay, if all you want to see, and this is not a judgment call whatsoever, if all you want to see is your two favorites kissing, it doesn't necessarily matter if you pay an artist $100 to draw that, or if you use an AI to generate that image. And I think a lot of artists are genuinely worried about that lost income. And honestly, when you are in a fandom as an artist and you enjoy what you do, being able to draw those fandom ships is really fun, and it lets you connect with people. And I think a lot of us are already somewhat socially anxious, have trouble meeting new people, and we are worried that the tool we use to communicate with the world is going to be gatekept from those of us who don't meet certain skill requirements or don't already have an existing popular base. I'm gonna go change this water out. I'll be right back. And I try to be, I don't want to say I'm trying to be middle of the road because I'm not, but my spouse he's a programmer, and I have been practicing a lot of my arguments regarding AI generated art with him and working on articulating exactly why I find it upsetting and what my concerns are and what I think could be done to remedy the situation, because I figure he is going to be the kindest practice I get. And I think it's really important for us as artists to be able to articulate these concerns, because I think our day in court is coming. And we need to be able to advocate for ourselves and convince lawyers and judges that our needs and our rights and our right to work deserve to be protected. So, been having a lot of conversations about it and also reading about it, but I'm not super comfortable. Like, my memory is garbage these days. I wish it was as good as it used to be in 2014, because I would love to do like a good video essay on it, but I would have to reference the heck out of I'd have to have a teleprompter to be able to deliver like a really salient, concise video, and that ain't happening. So before I get too much further into this, these are like so nice. They're so vibrant. They're so, and I'm biased because I have worked with Da Vinci paints before. One of my favorite mixing palettes is a Da Vinci mixing palette, and I use it a lot. I refilled it several times. So like I'm coming into this knowing I'm going to like these. This isn't really like meant to be a review. It's just, you know, meant to be hanging out and chatting. Well, I'm internet. I'm old by the internet standards, like, and so I've seen a lot of stuff come and go. And I'm also, while I make YouTube content, I am also very YouTubey. I watch more YouTube than I watch television. So, and I love keeping up with like crypto stuff, NFT stuff, scammers, that sort of thing. So like I kind of see where this is going. I've also been following Right to Repair for a while now. So, you know, and I've seen how that has both succeeded and had difficulty. So I feel like our best chance at defending ourselves, advocating for our rights, and having our needs met is to have thought out rationales. I think it's okay to appeal to emotion because, I mean, shoot, we are human beings that are creating often emotional things that are meant to communicate and to be emotive. And a lot of us, myself included, prefer to lean on either written fiction or written comics or illustrated comics or illustrations to communicate these more complicated, nuanced messages. And like, I don't know how a court of law would react to somebody rolling up with like a 20-page comic that they've drawn about this topic. Like, I don't know if they would read that. So we're going to have to get better at expressing ourselves. And one of the big things I've seen on Twitter, and like, look, I admire these people. I look up to these people. I'm not talking smack, but so many of the people I see who are the biggest fighters in this battle against some of the stuff that's going on are not very good at actually crystallizing what their problems are, or even crystallizing why this is a concern for us, why this is painful, why this is worrying. Because I think a lot of them are so used to talking primarily to other artists who like get where they're coming from that they don't have to spend a lot of time defending art and the validity of art to people who are like openly antagonistic to them, and see the process of making art as a deterrent rather than like a joyful experience in and of itself. Tali said, also the right to be creative and people understanding what we create. I mean, I don't know that people understanding what we create is a right, because like that could be like, I'm not like trying to argue with you. I think that's like a really interesting idea. But like, are you familiar with the phrase death of the writer? Basically what that means is that, or death of the author, it means when you read a work, you are trying to review it in a scope outside of the creator and the creator's intent, so that you can derive your own meaning from it. I have a really hard time distancing myself from like, okay, like if I like a creator personally, like have had good interactions with them, have met them at shows, interacted with them online, or they just seem like a generally cool person, I will probably be kinder to their work. I'll just like it because I like them, and I personally can't really detract how I feel about someone from their work. So like, I could not objectively tell you what, oh yes, I will circle back to that because you were spot on, sorry. I could not objectively tell you whether Jackson Pollock's art is good or bad because I hate him. And I cannot see his art through an unbiased lens, you know, knowing that he ruined his wife's chances at an art. Ooh, this cobalt violet does not want to activate. He got jealous of his wife's success and basically kind of crushed her career so he could have one. So I cannot ever look at a Jackson Pollock and feel anything but disdain. And Tolly corrected and said, oops, I meant why we create. Oh, yes. And like, I tell you guys, because I love making like classes and art resources for people who would like to get into making art or just enjoying art supplies. If I knew how to crystallize like pure joy of making things, pure just enjoyment of working with the materials, or of seeing how beautifully the colors lay down on the paper, if I could like bottle that and just send that out to everybody on like my mailing list, I would, because it'd be so much easier. But unfortunately, it's such an intensely personal thing. Like, we all have to find that reason to do it, and you can be inspired by somebody else's reason, but it still has to also resonate with yours. I wish. But yeah, we got to get good at explaining that, because I've seen so many people, their argument in favor of AI art is, well, you can skip all the tedious learning how to draw part. And it's like, excuse me? What? Some of us like that process. Some of us get bitey if we don't sit down and make art. Some of us use even just what I'm doing here as a chance to like focus and center yourselves and unwind from like a bad day. All right. So I am so super duper smart, and I have not been marking the transitions from one set to another, but fortunately it's 8. Really? No. It's 8 across. So, and 3 rows per all but the very last one. So I could figure it out going backwards. So, while, and a lot of those arguments are still being had, this is, if I wasn't an artist, I would find this intensely interesting in the same way I think talks about NFTs and talks about crypto and talks about internet scammers are intensely interesting. But I got a pony in this show, so what it really does is it starts bringing up these really nihilistic feelings of why do I create, and also why do I teach? And is there any value at all in me teaching? Not just me teaching on YouTube, but me teaching in person. Like, do I have a leg to stand on making these students learn how to practice drawing constructive faces when realistically they could download a base from the internet, or they could just use an algorithm and some clever prompting to get close enough to what they were looking for to satisfy that little itch of wanting to take the sublime invisible and make it into something more tangible. Like, you know, if all they want to do, if they were like me and I was weeaboo trash at their age, if all they want to do is see their OC drawn, their original character drawn as a pretty anime girl, and that's it, that's their reason for drawing, and that was me, like, who am I to tell them to take the long road when there's a shorter road? And the shorter road, in my opinion, isn't as rewarding, but like, you could crank out a whole lot more stuff quicker. So it's kind of bringing up some rough feelings, and I don't really have a lot of other friends who teach art that I can like have a coffee with and chew over these ideas, you know? And Cindy said, what? No, I love to grab a piece of paper and do something as terrible as an artist as I am. And in my opinion, your worst art is still better than a straight up unaltered AI whatever it pumped out, because you made it. It's yours. Your personality, your thoughts, your tastes all go into that. And like, okay, so it's rough and it could use some refinement and some practice, but there's like something so you about that, and that's something I really love. And that's one of the reasons I like teaching. Hang on, I'll be right back. Water. That's true, Tally. I do have you, but it would be nice to also be able to talk to other artists who have a lot of experience teaching it. Because, like, I don't want my anxiety and nihilism to deter you from doing what you want to do. I don't want my fears to kind of pollute your goals. Does that make sense? Like, I don't want to scare you off, especially unnecessarily, because, like, this could just be anxiety brain talking. But also, and I'm telling myself, I really hope I don't have any of my in-person students in here right now. This year, teaching has just been, like, really hard, mostly in the back half of the year. And I think a lot of it has to do with just I've been really kind of burnt out, and I've been struggling with depression, and my energy levels are just not as high as they normally would be. And it's been harder to keep their attention for the same amount of time. And I feel like it's harder to get them to open up to me. So it's harder for me to find what we have in common and use that to inspire them this year. I think most of my students are wonderful people. Like, I'm not trying to talk smack about any of them. I'm just having, like, a harder go of it. And I also don't feel like I'm getting the support I'd like to be getting, or the feedback I'd like to be getting. So I just kind of feel like I don't know if you guys have this problem, but, like, for context, I was always a pretty good student, like an A high B student. And yet every time I took a test or I wrote an essay, I was convinced I was going to get an F. Didn't matter how hard I worked on it. Didn't matter how hard I studied. I was just absolutely convinced that I was going to fail. So it's really hard for me to be able to, like, accurately gauge my performance when I'm teaching. And in past years, it wasn't as bad as it is now, but it's gotten to the point where I feel like I couldn't even tell you. And I do actually have other people, like, check over my presentations, like, not the people I work for. My spouse looks over my presentations because I ask him to, and helps me, like, figure out the timing and stuff. So I am, like, trying to solicit feedback and critique, but the students are not really, like, communicating with me, I feel like. And the people I work with, my co-teacher is, but she also has similar problems in being able to gauge how well she did versus how well she thinks she did. So like we're in the same boat there. And our boss just hasn't been checking in with us a whole lot, so I feel kind of like adrift. Ba-ba-bum. And Tali said, no, you're not pushing me to do anything I don't want to do. And that's good, but I also don't want to scare you away from something you genuinely feel called to just because I'm struggling right now. You know what I mean? Like, we live in different parts of the country. We're probably going to teach different age groups. We may have access to different resources. So, like, just because I'm having a hard time with something does not mean you're going to have the same problems, and vice versa. So, like, I would just be afraid. Like, if you ever have, like, specific questions about teaching art or gig teaching art, I would be happy to help you. But I don't want, like, me going through this to scare you off. But I mean, my mom was a teacher for a bajillion years, so I can actually talk to her about a lot of this stuff and get helpful feedback. Especially for some of my students who have ADHD, because she had 2 children with ADHD, so she's got, and we both have read a lot of books on it, and she taught forever, like middle grade math, so she has some experience with it, and she can often offer me advice on how to handle a situation that is really more productive than I would have thought of on my own, which would maybe just be like, keep trying the same old thing that isn't really working and hoping this time it works. But I don't have like anybody else I can really talk to, I feel like, about it. And certainly not about art and the process of teaching art, which I really wish I was better at. And Cindy said, but I'm like, what if you're not able to have electronic, hang on, let me read. Freeze and hit. We had weeks without electricity, pen and paper were my salvation. Yes! Oh man, maybe I can bottle this kind of inspiration just by like writing down these kind of points, exactly that. Like okay, for me it was Ida, but I feel you, because if I wasn't able to draw and paint during that time, I was having, not only were we having similar problems with electricity, but I was also, one of my family members who I was staying with was going through kind of a mental breakdown at the time and had gotten abusive. And not my spouse, but a family member. And if I could not have detached and gone and painted, it would have been so much worse. And that is one of the things that art and music and pottery and writing can do for you, that if you've never experienced that before, if you've never needed to turn to the refuge of creation, even if it's just for your own joy, you can't, I think, fully appreciate the wings it can give you when otherwise you would be trapped. So maybe I ought to be writing these down and bottling them and sending them out to people as like little reminders, like, of why we do what we do. And even if we're still growing in our journey, it's still so valuable. Tali said, I'm not scared. I'm glad you're talking about this. You're the one that inspired me. Thanks so much. The Lord sees that. I appreciate that. Thank you. Because I'll tell you something. The money in what I'm doing, it's a vocation, because there is not a lot of income there. But that could be a good way to bring up another point I wanted to bring up. So I appreciate that. So I want to think about how I want to say this. I really appreciate you saying that. It really means a lot to me, honestly. Because this is the sort of thing I could say, and it might sound like I am not seeing the people who are in my corner and not grateful for the people who are in my corner. And I do not want to say that. I don't want to sound like I am not grateful. I don't want to sound like I think I'm perfect. I don't want to sound like I'm entitled. I am not the only artist who feels this way, though, and that gives me some courage because, like, it's not just a me thing. I think a lot of other people are struggling with this. So I brought up the whole social media, musical chairs, garbage can fire, crazy train, as well as the AI art, because I make art now. I make tutorials now. I am doing the stream now because I want to communicate with people. I want my life to have value and to have meaning, and I want to bring joy to other people's lives. I was talking to my mom about this earlier today. Like, when I was growing up, I grew up in an abusive situation. And my dad was an alcoholic, and he's passed away since, but things were just really bad for most of my childhood. And I found a lot of refuge in reading. I don't know that I would have survived to adulthood if it hadn't been for the ability to escape into books. And I want the books I make to maybe provide someone else with an hour or two of vacation, of oasis, of like escaping their problems, or maybe seeing the world a different way. Like, I can't take away other people's problems, but maybe I can share a new way of thinking about things, or of processing things, or of handling things that might make it more tolerable or might make it easier to deal with. And that's my goal. Like, I really just want my books to be read. That's why I've donated them to libraries. I've donated them to schools. I've put them in little libraries. That's why I shared Kara as a webcomic. Like, I would like to make money doing it, like a living, but I never ever thought I was going to get rich being a comic artist. That wasn't my game plan. And really, it would be cool to make enough money to just like pay my mom, who's struggling financially, to come help me prepare for cons and stuff. And that would be like the goal, you know? Geez. I just feel like, and maybe it's me getting up in my head, a lot of it is me looking at analytics from that day and getting very discouraged. A lot of it is me comparing myself to other artists or comparing myself to other YouTubers. But I get really discouraged. And this year has been, like, to be blunt, 2020 was rough, 2021 was rough, and 2022 was rough. Like, it's been a long stint of rough. And I've always kind of struggled with depression. I'm not trying to be like a downer with you guys, but I do want to be like just honest with you guys. Like, I've always struggled with depression. Even as like a little kid, I struggled with depression. And so to an extent, I know some of this is just like, okay, this is the wave. We know how the wave goes. I know what to expect. But this year has just been really hard. And like, I think a lot of us, a lot of artists, a lot of musicians, a lot of creative people who want to share stuff online, we get a lot of validation from online approval and from people liking what we do, like hitting like or commenting or saying, I really like that. And this year in particular, I think a lot of us smaller creators who aren't as popular or have more niche audiences, or our audiences are shyer or more reclusive, we lost a lot of our audience this year. Whether they left Twitter because they are done with Musk, or social media is unhealthy for them. And frankly, it's just unhealthy for all of us. So like, I'm not judging you. And they had the like wherewithal to recognize that social media wasn't helping them and they could walk away from it. But I think a lot of smaller creators just disappeared during the pandemic. Like, I'm sure some of them did unfortunately pass away, but a lot of the people I know, they just quit because like it just got to be too hard. It got to be, they never heard back from anybody, and it just stopped being something that brought them joy, and instead it just brought them pain. And I definitely have been like really struggling with that this year. I don't want to make it sound like this year was nothing but garbage, because like March, April, May, June were really, I felt good about those months. But like my mom's sister who lived with her, who was over at my house like every day, because my mom was helping us paint and my aunt couldn't really be left alone, because she had lupus and some other issues. She was re-diagnosed with lung cancer in August, and then they kind of dragged their feet with like getting her started with treatment, anything related. Like they told her she had lung cancer again, and then just didn't make any progress talking to her about it. But her prognosis was supposed to be really pretty good because she responded really well the first time, and this was the same type of cancer. She was hospitalized a couple of times for potassium imbalances. We didn't really know where that was coming from because she didn't really eat a lot of foods with too much potassium. And then in September, she got really sick really fast over the course of one day. I mean, like the start of the day, she was just having tummy problems. The end of the day, we were at the ER for 4 hours, more than 4 hours. It took them 4 hours to find a vein in her arm. And the doctor comes out and is like kind of getting a little bit of an attitude with us. Like, did you know she was this sick? She might die tonight. Like, no, we didn't know she was like gonna die tonight, you know? And anyway, she ended up passing away from it. She fought for 2 days, and it was a complication of the cancer and her lupus. And it was just really wild. Like, she was responding really well to dialysis until she wasn't. And her blood pressure was crazy low, but then they got her on some meds, but then her blood pressure kept falling. Looking back, it is something that if you had started chemo, they would be looking out for, and there's actually a medication they can give you to help with it. But she hadn't even started chemo, so she should not have had this. And I feel like my life hasn't really been the same since. Like, we were close, but we weren't close. She was my godmother, but she like never paid any attention to me when I was growing up. But I was the one who, when she lost her house, I advocated for her to live with my mom, and we ended up spending like a lot of time together. But she never like opened up to me a whole lot, but she was starting to. This was my aunt who was on the craft streams. Like, I really involved her in my life, and I was really involved in her life. And I felt like, because she died in September, I'm going to go change the water. I'm sorry I'm getting so heavy with you guys, but I really do want to talk about this because it's been like bothering me, you know? So, years ago, when I was 21, my dad had lung cancer. My dad died of lung cancer. And he had stopped drinking. He and my mom had gotten remarried. My dad and I were really close when he died. And it gutted me This man who had always wanted to be the dad in my life was now the dad in my life, and I lost him. And the way I kind of dealt with that, because like all my friends quit being my friends when my dad got cancer. I was too depressing. The guy I was dating became emotionally abusive, and my family was just not really that. My extended family was not super into talking to me. Like, I think if I'd called them, they would have, but like nobody checked on me. So I felt very sad and depressed and isolated. And I kind of dealt with it by just making a lot of art. Not even really about my dad, just making a lot of art and prepping to go to grad school. And that's kind of what I did after Aunt Paula died, is instead of taking enough of a break, instead of canceling my shows or not doing, an inked art challenge in October, or like really adjusting my schedule or not teaching, I just kind of kept doing everything. And I didn't really, like, I've tried to talk about this with my family. My mom's great, but like my extended family, they just want to see this aunt as like this victim who had lupus and her life was so tragic, and oh, poor Paula, she never got to do anything fun. And it really breaks my heart because Aunt Paula was always down to like go to Sonic, always wanted to go to TJ Maxx, was always interested in like whatever art stuff I was working on or reviewing, really liked doing the craft streams. Like she was busy. She had bad health complications, but it didn't define her life. And I can't really just talk to them about like my aunt and what she was interested in and what she liked to do, because it always circles back to, but poor Paula, she was a suffering soul. So like the only people I can really talk to about my aunt is Joseph, who was basically like a nephew to her, because I spent a lot of time with my aunt. My husband spent a lot of time with my aunt because she was at our house all the time, and my mom. And I feel like I like really bottled up those feelings, especially because in November I had like a bunch of shows scheduled, and those were like my only shows for the year, and I was so excited to like be going back to doing shows again, and I wanted to sell volume 2 in person, and I had a coloring book I was working on, like, I didn't want to cancel them. So I think I didn't really like work through what I went through, and I didn't really give myself permission to mourn for her, because the way I like to mourn people is telling stories about them and sharing their life. And like, y'all didn't know her super well, so like it wouldn't have been really appropriate to do that with you guys unless I had like a particularly funny story or something. And also she was like, she really didn't like social media, but she liked the craft stream, so I think she'd be cool with me sharing funny, nice stories about her. But like, with the people who I should be sharing these stories with, they haven't gotten to the idea that when she moved to Louisiana, she did have a life, and she did have things that she did that were hers and that she enjoyed doing. Art Alchemy said, I feel you. My mom passed almost 2 years ago. She passed 21 years after my dad. Oh my gosh. On the exact day. I suggest you do art and stay busy. It will help you. Artist therapy, it helped me. And Cindy said, I feel you, Becca. Something similar happened to me with a childhood friend. Oh no. We were not super close, but her passing was so sudden. It does mess you up somehow. Yeah. Oh man. I don't think I've lost any friends that I've grown up with yet, but that's when that day happens, that's going to mess me up really bad. Because, we're not super old yet, so like, I'm not ready for any of us to die just yet, Which is weird, because when I was in high school, like, it was a known fact that every year several kids would die in a drinking and driving accident. So like, I knew people who died of either they were the victim or they were the driver. But like if someone died now of like a heart attack, I'd be like, you're just 37. So I'm bringing it up because I've brought it up in some of my videos, like in passing, but it really has had an impact on me, and has just made it like harder to do things. And I also feel kind of guilty because like when my dad died, I was big sad. Like it broke my heart. And when Aunt Paula died, I am sad and I like miss her every day. But like she was kind of a quiet presence in our lives, so it isn't the same, you know? And I feel like guilty, like, oh, some part of me thinks like, oh, you should feel the same way. But you know what? Logical me is like, well, you have different relationships with different people, and it makes sense not to mourn everyone the same way because not everyone's the same person. Tully said, similarly but different. Me of losing both my grandparents on both sides of my mom and dad's side of the family. Oh no. Who you were close with but could have spent more time with them. You know, on that note, like, I'm really glad y'all were close. Because, like, I think that's one of, like, the greatest kindnesses you can say about someone you love. Like, this is how I feel about my dad, too, right? Like, I loved him so much, and things had gotten a lot better between us, and I just wish I could have spent more time with him. You know what I mean? Like when you've had, not speaking for you, but when you've had, like, a fractious relationship with someone, to be able to say you really wish you could have spent more time with them is a wonderful thing, because at one point you did not necessarily, like, you didn't wish him dead, but you didn't want to deal with him. Not saying that's your case, but I do think it's a really nice sort of testament to the impact that they've had in your life, that you could always want more of their company. So kind of circling back, because I really wanted to kind of set the stage and give you guys an idea of like what's going on. I am going to take a hiatus after Lunar New Year, probably for about a month. It might be longer. I'm not going to post on YouTube. I might post some shorts. I might do a live stream, but I'm really hoping to just take a vacation and kind of rest, because my relationship with social media is in a really bad place right now, and it's making me really unhealthy, and it's making me really depressed. I'm too reliant on social media for validation right now, and I want to kind of decouple that and go back, enjoy making art again for the process of making art, and kind of go back to like work. I've been working on comics, but like go back to the feeling of working on comics because I love working on comics. You guys know what I mean? Instead of like needing that validation in order to like what I've done. Mary Catherine said, death is weird. My friend's husband died about 18 months ago, and her grief is awful. My daughter's stepsister died. Oh my gosh. Died in August, and my child cares, but goes on pretty normally. Yeah, grief when you're really young is... because you're more malleable, and your kiddo has like a really good support system too. So I feel like if she needs y'all for that, she knows she can turn to y'all for that. Yeah, because when I lost my papa, I was 12, and like I was really sad about it, but I was also like very normal about, like, to the point where some members of my family thought I didn't care. When I did care, I don't know, like it didn't hit me until like when I was alone in bed at night, and then I'd start thinking about it. And Tally said, thank you, Becca. And Cindy said, wise words about different types of grieving. Thank you. Oh, you're welcome. It's nice that we can, I mean, it's a sad topic, but it's nice that we can talk about it too and like be supportive of each other and encouraging. That's what community is. But I am also going to try, we'll see how well it goes, like not really posting on TikTok, probably not really posting on Twitter or Instagram, because I really want to try and like reframe how I think about these things and how I see them, and to not get so like up in my own head about them and not take it so seriously. I mean, it is to me, sorry, it is serious, because like I would like to have a more reliable source of income for myself. Like I mentioned, I would like to one day be able to employ my mom to come help me with stuff, or like when we bring back the craft streams, it'd be really cool to be able to pay her a good amount for her time, you know, and just to be able to help her out like that, because she's done so much for me. And we do try to help her as much as we can, but it would just be nice if I earned more money so that I could help my mom out. Having talked to some other artists, though, apparently that is like a pretty common artist dream. It's like, I want to earn enough money to employ my mom. So I guess I'm not unusual, but... And like, that's also another reason why, oh man, I'll tell you guys, not that y'all need to hear it from me, not that I'm like the wise, ooh, that is a pretty color. That's terracotta. Not that I'm like the expert or anything like that, but like the way social media, and I mean Twitter, Instagram, YouTube, TikTok, the way it's all going right now feels really kind of insidious. And what I mean by that is like, okay, are you guys familiar with those experiments on rats where they found that if they reward a rat every time they did something, it worked, but if they rewarded a rat randomly, it was so much easier to get the rat to repeat that, easier than if you rewarded that rat every time. Apparently, we will work harder for an insecure reward. What's the word that I want? Insecure is a word for that, but like tenuous, not 100% guaranteed reward, then we will work for a 100% guaranteed reward, right? And like social media capitalizes on that so hard, whether they're hiding your stuff on the algorithm and not showing it to people who are interested, or like Twitter's case, will sometimes show it to people that like algorithmically would react very poorly to what you had to say to like generate infighting, because that's attention, that's clicks, that's keeping you on the site. I'm sorry. I got like whole thoughts about social media, and like clearly I'm very addicted to it and very plugged into it, and I realized I needed to go on a hiatus for a while when I realized I wake up feeling good until I get on Twitter and then I feel depressed. Or until I check my Instagram and then I feel depressed. Or I get on YouTube and I see my views and then I get depressed. And it's like, if I didn't have those counts, if I couldn't see any of the likes, if I couldn't see anyone's number of likes, if I couldn't see my number of likes, if I couldn't see my number of views, and then Twitter has done this deliciously mean thing where they've added something called a view count, which shows how many times your tweet has been viewed, and it'll count the same people multiple times. So many of us have started comparing our view count versus our like count. Oh, it's really rough. It's really not healthy at all. And I'm kind of hoping that by like taking a month from that kind of stuff, I can heal again. I will be on Discord. In fact, I would like to be using Discord more. I've actually stepped away from the paint box because my depression has been so bad that I felt like I didn't have anything to contribute, which is not true, but that's what depressed brain will do to you. I'm going to keep posting to Patreon, and I will keep uploading videos to Patreon. I'm not like not going to do stuff. I'm just not going to push myself to do social media and try to keep up with that. Let me go switch out my water so we can do these last few. And Tali said, definitely understand. I agree. And I can also think a break would be a good, along with a positive thing. I became a patron for you on Patreon. Yeah, thank you, Tali. And thank you, Mary Catherine. And Cindy said, I can relate. The social media burnout is real. I just feel that there is not a suitable outlet to connect or share. I haven't felt the joy in a long time. Yes, we're going to talk about that in a second. Okay, so this is why, like, at the top of the stream, I kind of brought up Twitter and how long I've been on Twitter and what I used to like about Twitter. I used to really love just talking to other artists, looking at their art, sharing my art, talking about like our shared fandoms. Like, I used to feel like the internet was just a lot of fun and exciting and full of potential. And I haven't felt that way since like 2016. Which, there have been like a few shining moments where I've had a lot of fun, but like the overall feeling has just been like a gradual downward slope. And I think a lot of people are feeling this way, and that's so sad, because I think it's being engineered in this direction. And look, I'm not a software developer, and I have heard that Twitter was built on gum and toothpicks and a prayer. But I feel like in order to keep us on the site longer, and to kind of manipulate certain behaviors and to make these sites profitable, a lot of the stuff that just made it organically fun has disappeared. You guys can tell me if I'm wrong, but just looking at my analytics, and I'm switching topics to YouTube because it's at the top. The analytics are the easiest to compute for me, and I do actually struggle to read analytics. I also have trouble reading maps, if that tells you anything about me. So I have 17,000 followers. That is a good number. I really like that number. That number makes me happy. I feel like I do 17K subscribers worth of good work. However, when I share a poll asking how often people see my work, I think I get like 25 responses on YouTube and like 25 on Twitter and like 50 on Facebook. Like, there's a whole order of magnitude there that doesn't compute. And that's just the responses. There are responses depending on which platform. And these are people who, like, the whole crux of the poll is if you enjoy my work. Like, I am trying to allow people who are not interested in the videos to just, like, opt out. There are big chunks on Facebook and Twitter who say they don't ever get shown my stuff. So I would just really like it if an average video got 1,000 views in a week. That would make me really happy. But I don't know, y'all. Like, YouTube is I'm in bad baby jail or something. I don't know. I've actually talked to a rep at YouTube. I don't know how I managed to get to talk to a human, but I did. I wish I could tell you how, because then you could replicate it. I really do not know. And because I thought maybe it had something to do with, like, remember when, like, COPPA was a big thing and they were really pushing channels with, like, child-friendly content or all ages content to self-flag as being for children. And I did that because I was afraid of the legal ramifications of the FTC. I probably should not have done that. They really needed language that allowed for all ages content like what I do. But basically, the way they worded it and what got me is if you have content that might appeal to children, and they included cartoony art as one of those mights. So I feel like I have probably, because when I was flagged as for children, like, nobody was getting my notifications. And I feel like there's probably some setting in the back end that I don't have control over that is hit or miss sending videos out to people. I don't know. I would really like to know, because I would like to do what I can to fix it, because I don't think anybody, and I'm not the only artist who I've noticed has, like, makes nice content. Like, there are people whose stuff that I like better than my own, and I'm like, why do they have only 100 views? What is going on here? So, you know, or they're sharing stuff that, like, other people would find very relevant. It's like, how are they not showing up higher in the ranking systems? So, whereas, like, I love YouTube, but, like, some pure D garbage makes it real high up on that leaderboard, you know? So, like some of those AI generated baby videos that make babies cry. So, it's sure a something. And Mary Catherine said, I deactivated social media for a few months in 2022. It was a good thing in the end. I had to add you to my Instagram favorites to start seeing more of your posts. Yeah, so Instagram has been smacking me around for a few years because I did not want to jump on the Reels thing because I thought that sounded like a lot of work, and they're always changing the heuristics that they're looking for. So, yeah, I thank you for telling me that. I'm not surprised. I have also heard, but this is not 100% verified, that if you lock your Twitter account, your actual followers are more likely to see your tweets. And to be fair, this is a totally scientific study that I did. I did notice that I was seeing more tweets from friends with locked accounts than I used to see from them. So I am also considering that as an option. I did it, and I'm sorry I did not read all of them for you guys. I'm the best. What can I say? Tally said, you're right, Becca. An artist that I know on YouTube who does manga had a Twitter post about promoting a series with a character who is black and disabled, and caused rage where it wasn't needed. Oh man, Twitter is such, in that regard, I cannot defend Twitter at all, man. The fandom community, TikTok's bad too, but the fandom communities over some of this stuff, like, someone needs to tell some of these people that if you don't like a series, maybe it's just not for you. Maybe you could just, like, watch the 1,000 things that are for you and let people have something that they can enjoy. That's actually, I know who you're talking about, and that's actually popped up in my recommended, and I'm gonna, like, really, really out myself. I have a hard time watching other art tubers videos because it makes me depressed. Not because their content isn't good, not because they don't deserve the views, not because anything they did, but because I am a petty little worm and I can't always turn off the comparison. So there's probably a lot of growing I can do, probably a lot of learning I can do, and I am slower to do it because I can't get past the fact that it makes me sad. And I could dive into that like more, but I think I'll just leave it at that. I'm sure I'm not the only person who like struggles with that. I've seen creators in other niches talk about having a hard time enjoying fellow creators' content when they're having a bad day because it reminds them of what they don't like about their own content. So it's a thing. All right. So I have swatched all 120 of the Da Vinci colors and talked so much. Probably put my foot so firmly down my own throat. But I did want, oh man, I have been thinking about this stuff for like months and wanting to talk about it. And like, I don't know about you guys, but like the way my brain processes emotions, and this has a lot to do with how I grew up, like what I went through as a kid. I get angry first, and I'm angry for a while, and then I can process sadness. And I had to get past the anger because I knew that wasn't like a real, that wasn't really how I felt. That wasn't the real emotion going on here. Yeah, there's some frustration and there's some disappointment and there's a lot of burnout, but the anger was not like a correct response. And I've alienated people in the past by showing that response first, and I don't want to live that life. So I wanted to wait until it kind of processed out and I could talk about it. I also saw a thread on Twitter last night where many other artists whose art are gorgeous, but they don't necessarily have like a huge following. So we're all in, well, their art's better than mine, but we're in a similar size boat. And a lot of them were talking about how they were going through a lot of burnout and like what they did to recover from this burnout and to recapture what they love. And a lot of them had to leave social media or stop making art for a while. And that kind of crystallized some things that I had been considering. But I was also afraid to step away because, at least with YouTube, YouTube is like a place of like rules for thee, but not for me. Where like, and I'm not begrudging these people at all. People deserve to take mental health breaks. But like, if you're in a certain size bracket, if you don't update regularly, your views are going to drop drastically and you're not going to be able to, you're going to have a harder time recovering. I'm in that bracket. Whereas if you're larger and you're more popular, like Folding Ideas, whose work I love, you can step away for months working on something and people are going to be super excited when you come back. So I was really afraid that if I stepped away, it might be even worse when I came back. But I figure, you guys, you all have my back. And in a way, it can't get worse. Because if I wreck myself trying to fight something that I know I can't fight, and if I don't take the time I need to recover, that's not doing anybody any good either. And I mean, I have some ideas that I think are really fun and interesting, and I just don't have the spoons to execute them. Either I am waking up in like extreme arthritis pain, or I just don't have the emotional bandwidth that day. And I'm really hoping that the arthritis flare-ups are stress caused, and if I take time away, it will not be such a problem. And I'm also hoping that if I can work on resolving the burnout, that I will have the energy and the spoons to, do the cool things that I've been wanting to do. So I think that about wraps things up. Really like Da Vinci Watercolors. Let me do a quick... Also, I'm hoping I can clean up my studio. Like, not gonna lie, it is a pit. because I am a slob. Joseph tries very hard to clean it up and keep it clean for me to help me out, and I immediately slobify it. So kind of hoping that I can get it cleaned up enough that it's functional and it's a space that I want to show you guys instead of something that I am very embarrassed about. I found it. I did it. So this is my original Da Vinci set. I've had it for several years. I've refilled it several times. I really, really, really like this set. It's one of my favorite. So if I was going to recommend a pre-existing palette of watercolors, like professional grade watercolors, for somebody who is ready to buy professional grade watercolors, it would be a toss-up between this palette and the Core Mini palette. I like them both so much. So I really like Da Vinci Watercolors. They have a really beautiful color range, and I would like to paint an illustration using these sample dots. Kind of just to see if, like, yeah, you could paint a whole illustration from these samples, and just honestly to play more with the paints, because they're really nice paints. And I don't have a huge number of Da Vinci watercolors because, honestly, they're not sold open stock anywhere where I live. Neither of the two local stores have them, and Michael's sure does not have them. And we don't have a Blick around here. So that's usually like a good indication that I'm going to buy a watercolor, is if David's Art Supply carries it, then I'll probably buy it. So David's already has a really good selection. They just started carrying My Marie Blue, not Mammary Blue, as well as like Schminke and Core and Sennelier and PwC and Holbein. So like I can't complain that they don't have Da Vinci, but they could carry Da Vinci. I'm loving them. They seem vibrant and the price seems there. Also, like I say, I've refilled this palette several times, which is true, but they last a really long, like I've used this palette a lot. They last a long time. So like, it's not like I'm just like burning through these watercolors. This palette gets a lot of use, and I really, Becca, whose artist doesn't have, mine's not organized though. Mine's just chaos. I heard the organized part and I was like, nah, not for me, y'all. I just went chaos. For real. Like, I used to joke that I had like the clean corner, and I would point the camera into the clean corner to record. There's a reason if I'm showing my face in a video, I'm recording outside, because I don't even have a clean corner anymore. So, oh, sorry. Allergies are really getting me right now. So when I come back from hiatus, there are some things I do want to do. I want to wrap up the student grade showdown, which honestly I could probably call it. I've got like a couple palettes, and I've got some videos that I need to edit, but I'm so close to being done. I've reviewed so many student grade palettes, and like I feel like I hit all the highlights early on, and then I just kept getting palettes that are not very good for the same reasons. So I feel bad because I know the series just dragged on and it got kind of boring, but I really want to do a ranked tier list as a stream, and I wanted to be able to like talk about the watercolors, so that meant I needed to review them at least like the unbox and swatch. So I want to do the ranked tier list for the student grade showdown, and then I've got a bunch of cool professional grade watercolors that I've been hoarding that I want to review, but I was waiting until I finished the student grade showdown to do that. And then I just have like a bunch of project ideas that I want to do, and it kind of depends on who I can rope into helping me do things. And I also want, and this is for me because I want to do this, but y'all are welcome to hang out. I want to start doing the craft streams again because it was really fun to play around with a medium, like any medium that I wasn't familiar with no expectations of what I was going to produce. And it was cool to like be able to share that with my mom and my aunt. So my mom said she's game to resume them. We had stopped because hurricane and life circumstances, but I'm hoping to bring those back after I come back from hiatus. And I ran a couple polls about what you guys would like to see. And honestly, if you have any ideas, suggestions, anything like that, please let me know, because honestly, I get a lot of ideas from you guys, and it gives me that like community feeling. And I do write them down, even if it takes me a million years to get to them. But I'm gonna move that. I know I was like, I'm done. And now I'm like, oh wait, I have these brushes. Oh yeah, that's exactly what I want to hear. The looking forward to it, but take your time. I really appreciate that because it makes me feel okay about taking time I need if I know you guys will be happy to see me when I come back. Like, that means the world to me because it's like something to come back to, Like, I'm not just coming back to an empty house. I'm coming back to my online friends. So what I'm going to do, if you want to tap out now, I've basically covered like all the big basics. So, I would just be like chatting and responding to chat. I'm going to clean out my water cup, go hit the bathroom, and not on stream. And also just kind of like noodle around with some of these brushes because most of these are new to me. Like either they're a new brand or they're a new type. So that's what I'm going to do. And I'm going to also refill my water cup. So please take a hydration, a snack, a bathroom break, and I'll be back in like 5 minutes. how to make comics for kids, especially when it comes to writing disability or disorders. You can do silent comics. I have a Make a Mini comic. Like, I have a few of them and I can link them for you. Like a Make a Mini comic thing that works pretty well with kids of not quite all ages, but like there's like core groups within childhood that it really works well with. Like 5 to 7-year-olds really like it. 11 to 12-year-olds. And then like older teens for some reason cycle back and think it's really cool. So that's one I really like doing. That's one that usually if I'm like at a con and doing a panel or a workshop, that's usually what they've got me doing. Okay, so this is the Royal Langnickel. I think it's their medium mop brush. So Zen is kind of like a cheap brand, but not a cheap brand. It's nicer than a lot of the Royal Langnickel while still being pretty affordable. So let's pull out the regular old Da Vinci's for this. Probably end up making a mess. So that is actually, though, an area I would also like to improve upon. I have heard there are people who are making comics for the blind using raised ink, and I think that's really interesting. A lot of that hasn't yet crossed, like articles, things like that, hasn't really crossed my social media periphery, so I can't like link you to some articles. I wish I could. Honestly, comics for people with disabilities is not it's a topic that deserves more attention and more discussion, but it doesn't get the attention it really deserves, and the people out there making those kind of comics aren't getting the kind of attention that they typically do. This is kind of a stiff mop. I was looking for kind of an alternative to the the Cottonman mops. This one, though, is like almost like a goat hair. It's a synthetic, but it's almost like a goat hair. That, though, could be useful for like this like fur-like texture we've got going on here, or for like blades of grass. That's kind of cool. Stiffer than I expected. Not necessarily good for like stretching a watercolor page or laying down like a really wet wash, but definitely has potential. Is that the same thing as wordless comics or wordless picture books? The way I like to think about silent comics, I mean, technically, yeah, but I like to think a good silent comic, the character action and emoting, as well as the environments, is what carries the story. So to me, when I'm making silent comics, I try to really keep in mind readability even without, using the written word. I don't know if anybody, I am sure people have written about this. I mean, I did my thesis on how comics help with literacy. So I am sure there have been people since. Okay, so this is a filbert or a cat's tongue, and I got a nice big one because these are relatively inexpensive, and that's one of the areas I really want more brushes in, are like the large rounds and the large filberts and the large quills. I'm not sure if I didn't saturate it enough, but I was hoping for like a really good petal shape. That one's a little bit better. Oh, this is kind of fun, actually. This is like a water lily sort of petal. Oh, no. I kind of want to do like let me see if I can. I'm just going to noodle around. I'm sorry. That's fun. That's kind of like, I'm not necessarily using it for what I would normally use it for, but Scott McCloud is kind of considered like the seminal writer on comics and has a lot of good books on comic craft. Trying to remember, Understanding Comics and Making Comics would both be good resources to check to see what he has to say about that, and what maybe give you some ideas for like how you might want to go about creating your own or teaching it. That's kind of fun. That's an area I'd like. So a series I have thought about doing with you guys is taking all the different art forms that I am like really, really bad at, and like spending a few weeks to a month trying to learn how to do it and sharing my progress with you guys, not as like, this is a tutorial, but as like a funny, like, we're learning this together, we're failing and growing together kind of thing. And brush florals is one of the areas that I'm very, very weak in. That would be fun to maybe do that. Okay, so this is one of their, I don't like that it doesn't actually say the name of the brush. I think this is, okay, maybe this is the medium mop. To me, this is like a large round. Then I don't remember what this was called, but normally this would be a mop shape. They're also named like slightly different from what I would expect. These are fun for mark making. I mean, they're not bad brushes to begin with, and they're honestly good for their, really good for their price point and for the fact that they are synthetics, and you can find them at Michael's or online. The best deals are like online. Blick has them at a just such a good price, too good to pass up. Like this was like $4, and this size of round, if you were buying, this is a decent synthetic. If you were buying a natural hairbrush, would be about $75. So not bad. Palm all. It's related to my minor, which is speech language pathology. I believe it. Yeah, you have. Yeah, I'd love that. It sounds like a good idea. Oh, yes. Okay, good. About the trying and maybe failing, maybe succeeding. Who knows? But like, just something a little looser. Thank you for the both of you. Thank you for the feedback. I do not know. A good area to look would be at people's like master's thesis, but I don't know if the public can access, like request access to thesis papers. So I'm gonna get all like schmoopy and nostalgic. Back in the old days of Twitter, I could ask that for you, Tali. Like, has anyone done their thesis about this? And gotten a good amount of responses and maybe been able to like link you to some. But now, with the way Twitter is currently behaving, I could ask that and get zero response, even if there are people who I follow who have done that, or get sent to the wrong side of Twitter and for some reason be attacked over wanting to make comics more accessible to more people. If you guys, I am drawing a blank. I am sure there are some great silent comics out there. I'm sure there are. I probably have some in my collection. If you have a favorite wordless comic, please tell us, because that would be some great inspiration. Okay, so these are all like regular rounds. These are actually pretty stiff, especially compared. This one is like really soft, kind of floppy. I like it. I think it's not bad. These are much stiffer for watercolor brushes. So if you like these might be good for brush lettering. If you like a stiffer synthetic, and I know some of my friends do, these could be a good entry point for that. These, if I do the brush florals and the brush calligraphy, these will be ones that I keep in mind because they feel like they're pretty pretty suited to that. Like they've got good snap, they've got good bounce. It's really easy to make marks with them. I know that sounds like a duh, but like some brushes, like I love the silver black velvets, but they're a little mushy. It can be hard to get really distinct brushwork shapes. These have a lot of snap without, in my opinion, too much snap. So they could be a good in the middle. So this is the Winsor Newton Professional Watercolor. I think I bought this at David's. In fact, I think all but 2 of these came from David's. I'm trying to think of... It is all right. I think I might like the Paul Rubens quills better. Those are just really good quills for the price. This is more in the $20 range, which is okay for a quill. It's an okay synthetic, like not a great synthetic, not a terrible synthetic. I'm sorry, those are cop-out answers, and I'm aware of that. There are a few watercolor brushes that I absolutely cannot find a use for. And this is not one of those. I could definitely, like, it might be good for like trying to get really snappy brush strokes, especially if I want something that's a little more assertive than the Paul Rubens. It does also have a shorter quill though, so if you're looking for longer bristles, this ain't it. But it has a decent belly and can hold a decent amount of paint without dripping. So these they may be a good alternative for gouache. That could, yeah, because gouache likes a fairly assertive brush. Good thinking there. Okay, so these are, I got these at Moe's Art Supply. They are Faux Squirrel Liner Auxiliary Reservoir by Dynasty. And what I thought was exciting about these is this is the liner and then this is the belly. So let's see if these work. Because this would be really, and I may have to condition these. They may not have liked me taking the sizing out of them. They are very drippy. This might work better if you're going to need a big well for this. I'm just going to try to make as long a line as I can. I can get some really fine lines. It is a little stiff for the kind of curves I'm trying to make here. Like you see how it's kind of breaking at some of the curves? Maybe I am, let me try holding it more like upright. I don't know. I think what I was doing, even if it was like losing the belly, it does go a lot longer and isn't as drippy as a liner brush this size. I wonder if someone is making this in a natural fiber. That would be maybe helpful. Then we'll try our last one. It's the same thing, larger size. I think Joseph might be back from the show because I think I hear the garage door. See, what I don't like is how the longer fibers are clearly made from something else, and it seems like it's a stiffer fiber. So I don't know. Oh, y'all can't see because my stupid hand is in the way. Okay. So as I'm dragging it along the paper, it wants to break from the main body of the brush, separating it from that belly reservoir. So it would take some getting used to. I think it's really cool. I did not spend like, an excessive amount of money on this. If you guys know anybody who is making this kind of brush but with a different fiber, let me know, because I like the idea a lot. Not sure about this concept, and I'll do some digging as well. I thought I had a liner brush just like floating around, because Mind of Watercolor has really recommended them and has even said that if you have a shaky hand, a liner brush is easier to ink with, or to paint with. But he meant like outlining, like kind of like brush inking. So I was excited about that, and then I never like followed through with it, because I've tried some liners that I didn't like. These help solve the problem, but they don't solve it 100%. And Tally said, I've done research on looking at how comics and art can be used in speech therapy. Yeah, I was going to be a medical illustrator initially. Is there a large body of, I sound like I am intrigued and interested, because I love comics that are inclusive and are helpful for people with different needs. So that's where I'm coming from here. Is there a large body of work on that? Because when I was doing my, this is a majillion years ago, when I did my thesis on comics and literacy, there was nothing in comics about that, which was really annoying. There was a company that was just starting Toon Comics, I think by Art Spiegelman and Francis Moulet. That was aimed at younger readers, but there wasn't like a lot of written documentation about it. So I had to pull a lot from childhood literacy, and there was I had to make a lot of bridging the gaps by using picture books, because picture books are a sequential art, and just kind of extrapolating from there, because at the time there was like no real good information. I think Joseph found my thesis recently. If you want to use it, I don't know if it'll be super helpful for you, other than to show like, look, here's another somewhat related field where comics are helpful. If you have research about how comics can be helpful for speech therapy, I would be super interested in reading that, because I think that's really cool. I do know they can be helpful in kind of like behavioral therapy, like teaching kids cause and effect, teaching kids how different emotions are expressed. So if a child is neurodivergent and needs to mask, it can give a really good example. I mean, that's probably why I loved comics so much as a kid, was it was teaching me how to get along in the world. So I think that's a really cool topic, and I would be very interested in seeing some of the research for that, because on a good day when I'm not burnt out, I am a huge proponent of comics, and I really want them to be more ubiquitous. I want them to be a tool that doctors use with their patients, maybe that teachers use in their classrooms, that librarians use. Like, it makes me annoyed as all get out when I find out that teachers and librarians limit how many graphic novels their students can read. Like, it really ticks me off, because you're gatekeeping reading, and like, that's not making reading more fun. It's just making it tedious. So yeah, anyway, that's a really cool topic, and I wish you the best of luck and much good research available for you at not behind paywalls. So anyway, I have tested out the brushes. I have tested out the Da Vinci's. I played around with some of my favorite mixing palette for you guys. So I'm going to get back to painting comic pages, and I'm going to go hang out with Basil. I hope you guys have a wonderful evening so much. I really, really enjoyed this stream. It was so nice talking to you guys. I feel rejuvenated, which is, I'm still going to take a break, but it's so nice, and I really appreciate it. I will keep updating Patreon. I will keep updating. I will try to be more active on my Discord server, the Paint Box. Let me grab that link in case you want to join and you have not. Let me also say, it is a super nice, like, the people there are so nice. They're so friendly. They are so wonderful. There is nothing that happened in the server that made me not want to hang out in the server. It was literally depressed brain doing dumb depressed brain things. So that's on me. But I just want to like make that clear. And I do actually, even if I don't say anything, I do read through the chats and I do moderate it. So it's not like I was ignoring it. It was just I didn't have the spoons to be an active participant at the time. So yeah, gonna still be around on Patreon, still be around on Discord, might post stuff to TikTok sometimes, might post stuff to shorts if I'm posting to TikTok. And I don't know about other social medias, you know. Right now I have to kind of see how I feel, but I will keep you guys informed. I'm not gonna like just 100% disappear on you guys, and I hope that I come back feeling like excited about art and rejuvenated. So thank you guys so much for a wonderful stream. I will see you guys. If I can come up with like a stream topic that is fun but also kind of low energy, I may do a stream just because I like hanging out with you guys. And I'll let you guys know, community tab, Discord, that sort of thing. So thank you guys so much. Have a wonderful day and a happy weekend. May you guys get plenty of rest and relaxation and do something fun. Bye.